right, check it out. We're looking at the ULTRA X4 400 watt Micro ATX power supply. That's right, Micro ATX power supply. Maybe you've never seen one or even heard of one, and to be quite honest, you've never actually used one, but here's one of the easiest to find. Here's the deal. If you're buying or building a very small media center computer and it doesn't use an ATX-sized power supply, a lot of times it's really hard to find a Micro ATX power supply. As a matter of fact, it's darn near impossible because I've almost never been able to find one when I've needed one. They seem to be available in Europe and in Asia, but never in the United States. And so ULTRA has finally brought one to market that's very popular and is very useful to a lot of people making these systems. Now imagine you're building a Micro ATX platform. I mean, the board is this big. Everything fits on. It's got integrated graphics and integrated CPU using a 2.5-inch hard drive, which is this big and this thin. And you want it in the smallest case possible, but you have to use an ATX power supply. And all of a sudden, you know, boom, this huge power supply comes in, and that's going to take a lot of space in your case, especially if the case is designed for ATX. It just almost doubles the size that the computer needs to be. You don't need to have that much wattage. It's not a power system. So in the end, it's a waste. You get a bigger computer than you want. So if you go to shoot for these Micro ATX cases that have Micro ATX power supply requirements, you can't find a power supply. So either way, you're always in a catch-22, but not anymore. Check this out. A complete 400 watt power supply. That means it will power some pretty high-end systems. It will power just about any CPU you can throw at it. Even a graphics card could be thrown on here. 21 amps on the plus 12 volt rails. You can see right there. So 252 watts just going out to graphics cards. So it's very, very powerful. On top of that, it's fully modular. That means that you're going to be able to keep your cables nice and organized. In your case, again, there's not a lot of space in a Pico case or an ITX or mini ITX case or a Micro ATX case. They're very, you know, they're hard to wire because there's a lot of stuff, but sometimes you don't need it all. Completely modular. Bunch of Molexes, 20 plus 4 pin. It's got a 6-pin PCI Express, 4-pin for the motherboard, SATAs, everything. It's really, really nice. All kept nice and cool by a 98mm fan that you see right there, and that basically means that it's just big enough to get the job done. You know, none of these ITX systems you're going to build in a small case are going to be extremely powerful or gaming rigs, but they are going to need the basics, and that's what this does. It gets the basics. Now, I want you to keep in mind, this is not a ATX-sized power supply for a Micro to ATX motherboard. If you have a Micro ATX motherboard, that has nothing to do with the power supply. This is a Micro ATX form factor power supply. So it is smaller than your standard fare. It will not fit in your standard case. So just keep that in mind, and with that, we will go into talking about the cables and what we have as far as connectivity goes. All right, starting off with the most important and maybe most common cord, the 20 plus 4-pin motherboard connector, 24-pin into the power supply, and this is a 20 with a breakable 4, so you can break away 4 and use it on a 20 or a 24-pin. This is going to provide the power to your motherboard and all the peripherals. Next up is going to be SATA cables. Now it has only 2 ports down here for SATA, so it makes you think that you only have, you know, up to 2 hard drives, but that is false because if you look at the connector, this is what goes into the power supply, and you have 2 SATA connections per you know, modular connection. So here's another 2. That means you can power 4 hard drives or 4 SSDs with this power supply. Next, Molexes. You do have a bunch of Molexes. You actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Molex connections, plus all of these Molex connections also have a little fan peripheral add-on. So those are all there, and floppy add-ons as well. One has a floppy and one has a fan. You also get a power cable, as you can imagine. Now here's kind of cool. You get both this 4-pin EPS 12 volt, this is what powers your processor, or if you have a slightly more advanced motherboard, you also get the 8-pin. Now both end in 4 pins. They terminate in a 4-pin connection. That's what the modular plug is on the power supply, but you do have your option of running either a 4 or an 8-pin to power your CPU. Finally, last 2, this is a 6-pin PCI Express connection for your graphics cards, and then the final one, this is a Molex that has 2 fan connectors. So if you want to power your fans without plugging them into the motherboard, or you want to have extra fans in your case, this is what you're going to use, and that is basically it. This is a very unique power supply. You're not going to find a lot like it on the market, and it has a very niche user. It's only a few people that are going to be building a very small computer and want to take advantage of this smaller size power supply, but if you were looking for one, there you have it. It's the ULTRA X4 400 watt Micro ATX power supply. If you have any questions on it, feel free to email me, and I'll see you guys next time. For more information on the ULTRA X4 400 watt Micro ATX modular power supply, type in ULT 40276 into any major search engine.